So we are reading Zero Limits by Joe Vitale and Dr. Hugh Lin. We are on chapter 10, How to Receive Great Wealth, page number 123 of the book and page number 123
of the PDF. How to receive greater wealth. I am the I. Owaunaka I.
Shivangla, your fan is on.
My next seminar with Dr. Hewlin was different from the first. While the message was still about cleaning and erasing programs or memories, his approach was even more relaxed and off the cuff. He began by holding up a baseball and asking what the point of the game was. To hit a home run, someone said. To win, said another. To keep your eye on the ball, I said. Exactly, Dr. Hewlin responded in his thick Hawaiian accent. To win or hit a home run, you must keep your eye on the ball at all times. Exactly, Dr. Hewlin responded in his thick Hawaiian accent. To win or hit a home run, you must keep your eye on the ball at all times. But what is the baseball in your life?
So what does he mean over here, right? What is the baseball in your life? What is it that you need to keep your eye on? So even from the Vedantic principle, we are in the Gita talks, we are talking about, you must have a laksh, you must have an aim. And that is where you need to keep your focus for that point of time, that is your focus, right?
Everyone was silent. You're breathing, someone said. This moment, someone else said. Dr. Hewlin could see we weren't getting the point, so he offered an answer. The baseball is divinity, he said. You must stay focused on going back to zero. No memories, no programs, zero. Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning.
So again, so what is our laksh, right? At the end of it, when you look at it from the Vedantic principle also, it is getting to moksha. And what is moksha? It is going to zero. So basically, what is our aim in this life? To get out of this life, to get out and transcend whatever we have come here to experience. So that means we need to experience it and move out of this. So we need to get rid of the memory. We need to get out of inspiration. We need to start just being.
All you're here to do is clean or not clean. You can choose all you like, but you don't decide if you get it or not. You trust divinity to do what's right for you. Would you know better than divinity? Hardly. Let go. Clean, clean, clean.
So what is the point over here, right? Again, we are keeping on saying all the time that the big guy knows more than the small guy, right? And the small guy is constantly coming in the way. And the idea here is to get the small guy out of the way so that the big guy can work. And what is the big guy? It is divinity. So when you allow the inspiration, when you allow divinity to work through you, rather than you working, divinity will work. Then everything automatically starts to fall into place.
My intention is to be in alignment with the divine's intention, I told Dr. Hewlin. Good for you, Joseph. Intentions are limitations. You decide you want a front row parking place. You intend it, but divinity gives you a parking place a mile away. Why? Because you need to walk more. Let go. Clean, clean, clean. I spent 2 more days with Dr. Hewlin. 13 people are in the room. The whole focus is on how problems occur. You'll always have problems, he declares. I resist that statement, but write it down anyway. Clean, clean, clean. Problems are memories replaying, he says. Memories are programs, they aren't just yours, they are shared. The way to release the memory is to send love to the divinity. Divinity hears and responds, but in the way best for all, at the time right for all. You choose, but you don't decide. Divinity decides. I didn't understand. Clean, clean, clean.
So now, if you see the first thing, he says that you intend you want a parking space in X place, but divinity provides it to you in Y place. Now, again, the big guy knows more than the small guy. So we need to understand this, that whatever is happening to us, it is happening for our best. It is for our best that whatever is happening is happening. It is happening for our greatest growth possibility. So the whatever happens to us, if we start accepting it with love, then what happens is that we allow divinity to work through us. And then the next paragraph, what he's talking about is that any problem that you have, we need to understand this very clearly. We manifest our environment, we manifest our universe. So whatever is in us gets manifested, and what is in us, when we are allowing what is in us to manifest, it is always the memories. Again, the Wayne Dyer correlation, that if you squeeze an orange, you're going to get orange juice, right? So now we are constantly operating out of memory. So if anything is going right or wrong in your life, technically we are generally operating out of memory. Now, the point here is that we need to transcend that memory and actually allow things to start happening. Even in the excursion workshops, we tell you that, when you're going into these higher states of consciousness in focus 10, focus 12, and the above focus levels, you have to start getting a feel of what's coming from the big guy and what's coming from the small guy. You'll develop a feel for it, right? So over here also, he's very clearly saying that you have to allow divinity to work through you rather than making things happen according to your will. You have to allow the divine will to function through you.
Marvin, a happy, broadly smiling fellow from the Philippines, gets up and explains that he sells $150 million worth of luxury cars a year by not trying to sell anything to anyone. All he does is clean. All I do is say, I love you all day long, he explains in his accented English. I clean as I listen to people. All I do is clean, clean, clean. Always cleaning. You don't intend anything at all? I asked, skeptical. I figure he's at least intending to sell cars since that's his job. Never, he replies. No expectations. I just show up to work and clean. Clean, clean, clean.
So if you really look at this, right, it is a step up from where we are operating at. For the beginner, it is important to set an intent and then leave it to divinity to manifest it. But keep doing what needs to be done, because whatever shows up in our life if we start saying yes to it, then automatically divinity will take us where we need to go. Now he is going one step up over here, where he says very clearly that I don't have any intent. I just keep clearing myself so that whatever needs to manifest automatically starts to manifest. So where is he going? Since he's keeping on clearing his memories of everything and he's a blank slate, now there is no expectation, right? So now whatever happens, happens for the good. And whatever divinity manifests is always for the good. That is the state of consciousness that he is operating from. So we need to get there. We are not yet there. Okay. This is what we are need to aspire to.
There's a hand up.
Yes, Aisha.
Yeah. 1 second. Yeah. I'm saying that this also means, in a way, by saying by cleaning all the time, by saying those lines, we're also blanking our mind to other thoughts.
Correct.
So we're stilling our mind to that extent. So there's no space for two thoughts coming.
Yeah.
So
the
rather
point,
than,
yeah. So the point here is that, see, when you did the excursion workshop, right?
Yeah.
You felt that suddenly your mind stilled, there were no thoughts. You felt that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you still your mind, now your mind is available to experience the experience as to whatever is going to be experienced.
Right.
You get that? So you've gone into a zero state. When you have thoughts, what are our thoughts about? If you start observing your thoughts are about yourself, number one, what someone else has done to you,
Correct.
what you're planning to do, and what happened. These are the basic
round and round.
If you see, these are the round and round thoughts which keep happening, right?
Yeah.
Now, if these thoughts are coming, then if it is coming about the past, then it's already gone. If it's coming about the future, it's not happened yet. If it's about criticizing yourself, it's a problem. And if you're listening to what others are saying to you, again, it's a problem. So actually, all these thoughts are useless. Correct. The ideal place to be in is to be in the present moment. Be still within yourself, and whatever shows up, just say yes and do it. Now, as soon as you do that, you're in that equanimous state where things are happening effortlessly for you, because there is no resistance, right?
Right.
Most of the time, we are the ones who create resistance for ourselves. So what is this guy saying? That I'm selling $150 million worth of cars, and all I do is just clear myself.
Yeah.
Now, whatever comes up, I accept it with gratitude.
No, I think it's fantastic. I think just this clearing, if one just focuses on that, one really stills the mind.
Absolutely.
Because you're not giving yourself space to do anything else.
Yeah. So it clears the mind.
Yes.
So the way that we normally operate is one thought leads to another thought.
Exactly.
So there's a cycle. Acha, ye soch liya, fir wo soch liya, fir wo soch liya, and it keeps running round and round in circles, and half the time we don't know where we are.
Yeah.
So that's why it becomes very important to watch our thoughts. What am I actually thinking?
Yeah.
And once we start doing that, and we are removing our thoughts, in the sense that we are using that eraser to erase the thoughts. In the workshop, he actually says that just think of these 4 letters as an eraser, and you keep erasing whatever is coming up in your conscious awareness. And that actually stills you. So you're right that it stills you because you keep clearing it, right?
Exactly.
If anything pops up, you remove it.
Yeah.
So now you're back to zero. That's the basic game.
Yeah.
Sorry, just repeat that eraser ka thing. What 4 words for eraser?
The 4 Ho'oponopono words which are there.
Oh,
I am
okay.
sorry, please forgive me.
All right, got it.
I love you, thank you, right? You are instilling it in an eraser. And you hold that, you imagine that you have an eraser in your hand. And as soon as a thought pops up, you're using that eraser to erase it. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So the point here is that, again, I'm coming back, let's say heart focused breathing for that matter, right? what happens? It puts your brain and your heart in sync. The internal vibrations synchronize and it creates a stillness within yourself when you're doing the resilience advantage program.
Yeah.
When you go into F10 or F12, you automatically feel that stilling in your mind. You don't even need to clean because it automatically cleans your system up. When there is no thought, then what are you going to clean? The point is that when you have a thought, you need to clean, right? So this guy, he doesn't have the benefit of having the Monroe process or the HeartMath process with him. So he's using only the Ho'oponopono process to clean it. That's it. Nothing more than that. Now, one tool will work or one technique will work well in one case, and it may work better, and some other technique may work on some other case, right? So the more tools we have in our toolbox, we can keep pulling it out. That's the basic game. Okay.
Correct. Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
I spent 2 days hearing stories about cleaning by average people like you and me, but it's all so hard to accept. Just clean and say, I love you, and the world changes. You sell more cars, you make more money. Huh? You are totally responsible for all of it, says Dr. Hewlin. It's all in you, all of it. No exceptions. You have to clean on it or it doesn't get cleaned. Clean on terrorism, clean, clean, clean. Clean on the economy, clean, clean, clean. Clean on, fill in the blank, clean, clean, clean. If it's in your experience, it's up to you to clean, says Dr. Hewlin.
So basically, anything that comes into your awareness, you need to clear on it. Because as soon as it comes into your awareness, it becomes a part of your memory. And if you're operating out of memory, then you're not operating out of inspiration.
When I take a break and call home to see how Nerissa and our pets are doing, Nerissa stuns me by saying she spent the day making a surprise for me. She had a long to-do list. Making anything for me didn't seem likely. What is it? I ask. A major surprise. Tell me. You'll never guess in a million years, she says. Don't make me guess. I don't have a million years. Before I tell you what she said, let me back up a second. Nerissa has been stressed because of so many projects on her plate. She can't keep up. She's working on a video for me and another for a client. She created software she wants to promote. She also has the critters and the house to tend to while I'm away. She barely has the time to plan her day, let alone work on her many projects. So imagine my surprise when she told me the following. I took apart your closet and rebuilt it. Clean, clean, clean. I'm stunned. Cleaning my closet was not on her to-do list or even on mine. I took down all your clothes, took down the shelves, built new shelves, rehung your clothes, put your piled up clothes on hangers, and rearranged the clothes that were on the floor. This is as shocking to me as if she had left a check for me made out for, say, $5 million. This was unbelievable. What made you do all this? I asked. I wanted to do it for a while now, she replied. She wanted to do it? Maybe so, but she had no time. This came out of the blue. Dr. Hewlin says when you clear memories, what comes through is inspiration. Nerissa was apparently inspired to clean my closet. It's a metaphor and proof that inner cleaning leads to outer results. You can't intend what the outer results will be. Again, you can choose, but you can't decide.
So this is something that has been found, right? that, and many people have told me after doing the biofield tuning process or even after the excursion workshop, they find that things start to happen for them. If they had a to-do list, their list gets done quicker. The reason is that they start saying yes, they focus on the task at hand, and it gets completed. When it gets completed, they find that they have more time in their hands. Many times, when we have tasks, we are constantly in resistance, which doesn't allow us to focus properly and work at our full efficiency. The moment we drop the resistance, things start to happen. And then we are actually told that, okay, at this point in time, you do this, right? And you just do that, and you'll find that all your tasks that require to be done get done. And this is something that I'm experiencing in my own life also. I find that whenever I'm told to do something, I just get up and do it. That's it. I hardly ever plan these days. Things are just happening because we are allowing, we are not forcing anything to take place. The inspiration comes and act on it. That's it. But you need to understand, you need to start discerning the difference. What is coming from the small guy, which is ego driven, and what is coming from the big guy, which is divinity driven. That distinction is something that we need to understand and make for ourselves.
Later, in Dr. Hewlin's motel room, he and I sit like master and disciple. The only thing is, he treats me like the master. Joseph, you are one of God's original 10. I am. I'm flattered, but admit I have no idea what he is talking about. You came here to help awaken the divine in people, he explains. Your writing is hypnotic. It is your gift, but there's more. More? Clean, clean, clean. You are the J man for business, he says. Do you know what that is? I don't have a clue and tell him so. You are the Jesus of business, he says. The point man for change. As he speaks, I'm thinking I'd better keep this conversation to myself. No one will ever believe it. I don't. Clean, clean, clean. When I was with Morna, he says, reflecting on his years with the Kauna, who taught him the updated form of Ho'oponopono he teaches today. I thought she was crazy for the first 5 years. But then one day, that thought was gone. Dr. Hewlin's style is rambling, poetic, and visionary. He seems to use the right and left sides of the brain at the same time, while the rest of us lean on one or the other side. He goes from telling me I'm the savior of business to telling me about Morna. In its own way, it's hypnotic. I'm riveted. I want more. There's a wreath round your head, Joseph, he says, seeing something I don't see or feel. It's made of money symbols, like eagles.
Right. So very clearly he's saying that a person who works with both sides of his brain, the left and the right, gets a gestalt, gets a bigger picture than if you are working with only one side of your mind, of your brain, right? And that is again what hemisync does. It goes into, it creates the brain, both sides of the brain to start working together. So you get the logical side also, and you get the emotional side, the intuitive side and the logical side, and then they start working together. When they start working together, that's when the magic actually starts to happen.
For some reason, I feel an urge to show him a ring I wear. It's a solid gold ring, 2,500 years old, from ancient Rome. He holds out his hand and I lay it on his palm. The word on the ring is Latin, I explain. Fidem means faith. Dr. Hewlin is silent as he holds the ring. He seems to be receiving messages or impressions. I'm quiet, while he seems to be tuning in to the ring itself.
So, so one thing he says in the previous paragraph, I thought she was crazy for the first 5 years. But then one day the thought was gone, right? So people who are different, who act in a different way than what a normal person would act, people think they are crazy. So I think most people who are coming into awareness, the other people think they are crazy because they are doing stuff that the other person will not normally do, right? And I've been called, most people think I'm wacko. So why? Because they don't understand from where I'm operating, because I'm operating in a slightly different way than what other people are operating, right? Now over here, he's talking about the ring also. Now there is a science called psychometry. So if a person who knows how to do psychometry gets hold of an old ring, they can tell you exactly who has worn that ring. They will give a full description of that particular person. They will they will be able to discern what the ring went through, right? So like that, when Dr. Hugh takes that ring in his hand, he is tuning into the frequency of the ring, and he can actually discern whatever the ring is telling him. So he's going to say what the ring is telling him.
There is someone named as Redmi. Your mic is getting unmuted. You were a great orator in a past life, he says, but you were mobbed and murdered. This ring is healing that memory for you. That's interesting. I often had flashes of being a legendary orator in the past, but I feared public speaking today because I was killed in the past after speaking. I thought it was an ego designed memory, not a past life. Somehow, Dr. Hewlett picked up on the memory by holding my ring. I rarely wear it, I confess. Wear it, he says, always. He stares at the ring. This is amazing, he says. The ring was worn by a healer who knew the value of know thyself.
So again, by tuning into the ring, he's been able to discern a lot of things about Joe Vitale, right? And this actually starts to happen when you start going into higher states of consciousness, when you are starting to get near zero in the way that you operate. You will start getting downloads. In the Monroe terminology, it's called downloads. In the biofield tuning terminology, she calls it a slot, the mail slot, where such stuff actually drops in and you get information. So a lot of stuff can be discerned by just tuning into something. And this is something that can be used with the Monroe process, where we learn how to use something called the one breath technique, where you can actually go into an altered state and start getting answers for yourself. And the more you act on those answers and that those insights, those inspirations, the more powerful it seems to become for you. Okay, so I'm going to not allow anyone to unmute. If you want to say something, raise your hand and then we will unmute you, because it seems that some people are unmuting themselves by mistake.
I'm fascinated. Dr. Hewlin has the aura of a calm sea in a storm of reality. While the world swirls about, he seems still. He speaks his heart, accepting whatever comes and whatever is said. He stares at me and looks at my feet. Joseph, my God, I should be sitting at your feet, he says, genuinely moved by whatever he sees in me. You are as gods. Clean, clean, clean.
So
We're just here to clean, he
one
reminds me.
second. So what is he saying over here? He is a sea of calm. So he's in a calm state of mind. And then he says, he is still while the world is swirling around him, everything is happening around him. He speaks from the heart. He's not mincing his words at all, right? When you speak from the logical mind, you're constantly analyzing what am I saying, whether it will work for me, it won't work for me, and all that stuff, right? He just says what he feels like saying. Now, naturally, when you are in that zero state, you're not going to be saying, when you speak from the heart, you're not going to be saying anything that really tends to hurt another person or is not for the other person's greater good. Then he says, accepting whatever comes, whatever is said. So he just listens and accepts everything. He is not going into contradiction. He is not going into discerning whether something is right or wrong. It has come, he accepts it, and then he clears on it and he cleans on it. And whatever the essence of it remains after the clearing, and then he acts on it. Right. So he says over here, we are all a part of divinity. All of us, that Raghuji also was saying in the beginning of the session, that we are all interrelated, we are all interconnected, we are all a part of divinity. So ultimately, we are one, right? So he says over here that you are God. Ultimately, what is there? We are all a part of God. So all of us are God. Dr. Hewlin, is tuning within, tuning into the divinity or the part of God which is in Joe Vitale. And he says that you are God. And since you're God, I should be sitting at your feet. Okay, that's it.
We're here, just here to clean. He reminds me and everyone else during our weekend training. Clean always, incessantly, to clean all memories so divine can inspire us to do what we came here to do. Clean, clean, clean.
So now this is also very important, right? All of us have come here to do certain things. We have come here to achieve certain things. We've come here to grow, to learn. Now, most of the time, we get in our way. The small ego guy, because it wants to protect us, it wants more for us, it wants to accumulate things for us. And we are constantly living in the past or the future. The ego always lives in the past or the future. It never lives in the present, right? But what have we got in our hands? We've only got the present. So when we clear, we transcend the ego, we clear the ego, we stop operating from the past or the future, we come into the present, and then only we can do what we've come here to do, right? So it becomes very important to have clarity of mind, to have clarity of thoughts, to know what we are doing rather than just doing unnecessarily, right? If you really look at your lives, attempt to look as to what are the unnecessary things that you're up to. And if you can eliminate those unnecessary things, you will find that you have so much more time to do what is actually necessary. And see, again, I'm not some doodh ka dhula hua person. Even I do things that are not necessary. Many times, sometimes I go binge watching television serials. Is it necessary? I have to ask myself that question. I've got 300 books on my shelf to read. Now, I think that is more necessary. But what do I end up doing? I end up watching TV. So the point is to really understand what is actually good for you and not good for you, and what have you actually come here to do. So the more you clear yourself, the better you will be able to do what you've actually come here to do.
During the training, I realized I had cleaned on one of my books and not on another. I had spent time loving the attractor factor which became a #1 bestseller. But I didn't spend much time loving one of my other books. There's a customer born every minute, which didn't sell as well. I realized this with a bolt of energy up my spine. This is why it hadn't done as well as my other books. When I attended the first training, I learned I could use the eraser end of a pencil to help clean. I would tap the items with the eraser. That's it. It's a symbol, if not a fact, of cleaning memories. I set out a copy of my new book at the time, Life's Missing Instruction Manual, and put the pencil on it. Every day for months, I tapped on it. Whenever I walked by it, I paused, picked up the pencil, and tapped the eraser end on the book. Call it nuts, but it was a psychological trigger to help me clean any memories surrounding the book. Well, the book became an instant bestseller and stayed #1 for 4 days. Major companies bought thousands of copies. Walmart stocked it. Women's Day magazine featured it.
So, so what is it? He's setting up a trigger, right? That you're tapping on it with a pencil. As I said, Dr. Vitali talked about a duster. This is there even in the Monroe process, where when we are going into the altered state, you can actually create a trigger which will get you into that state, or create a trigger in your mind which will result in a certain thing happening to you or around you when you use the trigger. So like that, it becomes very important for us to have multiple triggers in our system which help us to get into the zero state, right? So he's just using the pencil to clear the book. So instead of saying the words, he's programmed his mind that whenever he taps the pencil with the eraser of the pencil on the book, that the four phrases are being repeated automatically.
But I hadn't done any cleaning on There's a Customer Born Every Minute. The book came out. It went close to the bestseller list, but didn't hit the top 10. I also orchestrated a major publicity stunt to help bring attention to the book. It got some attention, but no immediate sales. I told Dr. Hewlin about this. Dunk the book in your mind in a glass of water with fruit in it, he advised. I know it's crazy, but mark today's date. Dunk book in water and see what happens.
So this is a lot like liquid luck, right? You create the vial, and the moment in your mind you're drinking from that, something transformational starts happening and things start to manifest. So he says, put a glass of water with fruit in it. Fruits are always cleansing. They're very detoxifying. So I think he's using that process, that in your mind, you're cleaning the book by dunking it in that water, right? Yes, Renuji. 1 second. Yeah, please unmute. Please unmute. Yeah.
Bhaiya, what do you mean by programming the eraser? How can one program the eraser?
Okay, so you've done the excursion workshop, right?
Right.
Now, if you want to go into F10, what do you do?
You just think of number 10 and...
So take a deep breath, think of the number 10, and in 10 you will be. So now what's that? Haven't you programmed yourself to go into a state of consciousness, which is very different from the state of consciousness that you are normally operating at? So
Yes.
Now he programs himself that whenever I pick up the pencil with the eraser and I tap it on anything, those words which are there, I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, automatically get repeated.
So how can we program, supposing we were to take an eraser and try and do the same thing, but how do you program it? I mean, what
so
would he have
close your eyes, right? And you say to yourself that whenever I pick up the pencil with the eraser at the back of it and I tap anything on it, the Ho'oponopono phrases, I love you, rather, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you, will automatically be repeated.
Oh,
Now,
oh.
if you
So
do it in C1 consciousness to program yourself, it will have one effect. If you do it in F10, it will have a slightly different effect. If you do it in F12, it's going to have a slightly different effect, right? So now it's up to you to go and apply it and see what works the best for you. I would suggest go to F12 and program the eraser. I think it will work better from that state of consciousness.
okay.
You
You
got
just
that?
go into F12 and then say the words the way you've said it, and
Exactly.
it should work.
Correct.
It
Now,
should just completely.
now I'll give you another example. Okay?
Hanji.
Your doorbell rings.
Hmm.
What happens in your mind?
Somebody's come. So you have to get
Somebody's
up
come.
to go and open it.
Correct. Now, someone who has no concept of a doorbell ringing, will it happen? Will they know that someone has come to the door?
Oh.
Say you are in a village. Suppose you come from a village where there's no electricity. Now, that person has no concept that when the doorbell rings, it means that someone is in the door. Right? Now, will that person get up to go and open the door? He'll be
Okay.
wondering, "Arey, ye ghanti kahan se baj rahe hai? Where is this? Why is it ringing?" So now what has happened? We have been programmed that whenever the doorbell rings, it means that someone is standing outside the door.
Okay.
So
So
we are
maybe even when you're
constantly,
doing Ho'oponopono and
Yeah.
one does this consciously, that
correct,
you carry on doing that particular, whatever you want to create, then you would have programmed yourself into
correct,
it. So tomorrow when you even think about it, it will happen.
correct.
And if you go into F12, it just becomes that much easier.
That much easier and that much
Right.
more powerful, right? So we are
Thank you.
constantly programming ourselves. Anything that becomes muscle memory is basically a program.
Right.
So you
Got
think
it.
of all the programs that are running in your system.
Right.
You get that?
Got
So
got
we've got
it, got
millions of programs running and we really don't know about those programs running. And the idea is to come back to zero. So
I
act
thought I'd
from,
missed something.
Yeah.
I thought I'd missed something along the book, that there was a process and I had missed out. That's why I asked.
Yeah. But this, he doesn't talk about what I'm talking about over here.
Yeah, but you've told us what to do. That's
Yeah.
good enough. Thank you.
He also surprised me by asking about Oprah. You want to go on her show? I stammered that I would love to at some point. At that time, I hadn't yet been on the Larry King live show, so Oprah's show seemed like quite a jump. You have to be clean so you don't choke, he advised. Clean, clean, clean. Two authors went on and choked, he explained. I don't want that, I said. When you go on Oprah, it will be for her reasons, not yours, he said. That sounds profound, I commented. You have to give up the idea that people do things for you. They do things for themselves. All you have to do is clean. Clean, clean, clean. Before I left Dr. Hewlin on this trip, I again asked him about his years as staff psychologist at the hospital for the mentally ill criminals. I want you to be clear about something, he told me. It wasn't easy, and I didn't do it alone. I left wanting to know more, much more. Clean, clean, clean.
Okay. So now he says something very profound over here. Okay. He says very clearly, you have to give up the idea that people do things for you. They do things for themselves. All you do is clean, right? So let me tell you, all of us are selfish. Everyone is doing anything that they are doing 99% of the time for themselves, because they find some value in it, they will do it. If they don't find some value in it, they are not going to do it. They may say that, yes, I am doing it for you, but at the end of the day, they are doing it for themselves. This is a very, very fact. It's a fact which is given, right? So we must understand that. Now, if we can give what the other person wants, then the other person will do what you want. But you have to make it the idea of the other person and not make it your idea. So getting people on the same page is, I think, the most important thing if you want to get things done. And the best way to do it is to make it seem as if it is their idea, not your idea. Okay, so he's very clearly saying that that shift needs to come in ourselves.
It appears that everyone who does Ho'oponopono has a rather hypnotic story to tell. For example, dear Dr. Hewlin, I attended the Ho'oponopono gathering in Philadelphia recently. I want to thank you deeply and humbly from a melting heart for reminding me of the way home. I am eternally grateful to the divine, to you, and to all the children who help you do this work of teaching. What follows is a testimonial of sorts in response to the workshop. It is a sharing for those who might wonder what about the power of Ho'oponopono. If it would be helpful to share, please do. If not, if not of interest, discard, and may my gratitude to all be sufficient. Deep heartfelt thanks to you all. May God grant you all peace, wisdom, health, and a long life in which to clean and come home. Much, much love and blessings. Dana Hain. Testimonial of Philadelphia Ho'oponopono Gathering. Dr. Hewlin began the workshop with a lecture and drawings. He laid out the cosmology of Ho'oponopono. He asked us, who are you? Do you know? Together we explored the incredible, eternal, limitless, total, complete, empty, zeroed reality of our true selves from which all peace emanates. Whom he called it. We then explored with him the nature of what is a problem. Have you ever noticed, he asked, that wherever there is a problem, you are there? Does that tell you anything? Like old Socrates, he engaged us in the process, coaxing questions and answers. Little did I know that Dr. Hewlin was deftly exhuming these hidden memories and judgments for cleaning and transformation.
So the game actually is to become aware. Okay. Now, he says very clearly here, have you ever noticed that whatever the problem is, you are there? So again, we come back to the same concept that we are the ones who are creating our reality. So if there is a problem in our lives, then at the end of the day, it is we who are creating the problem. And once we start stepping away and taking a witness attitude towards the problem and clearing the problem, we can transcend whatever the issue is there, because we are the creators of that problem. If we change our perspective about it by clearing our thinking process, our thoughts, by clearing, clean, we can transcend any problem that we are actually having around that. And the way to do it is to remove the hidden memories, remove all the judgments, just clear, and be clean within ourselves, become in equanimity. And when we are operating from a center, everything automatically starts to fall into place. This is something that we are learning in biogeometry also, that everything, every event, every inanimate thing, every animate thing has a center. And if we can connect the periphery to the center, everything starts to get harmonized and fall into place. So the more centered we can become, the better off we are. This is something that Zia talks about in somatic intelligence also, is always bringing it back to the center, bringing it back into that state of calm, and using various processes to be able to do that, to connect with that centering aspect of ourselves.
Caught in the net, I raised my hand, asked questions, and made comments. However, as the days went by, it began to feel to me as though every time I asked Dr. Hewlin a question, he put me down. I felt dissed. Each answer burned me, and I felt publicly shamed and humiliated. By Sunday morning, I was so angry with Dr. Hewlin, I wanted to leave. I judged him as arrogant, controlling, and dominating. I sat there stewing, angry, ready to cry. I was so angry I wanted to leave, unsure whether I was going to bail or not. I did get up and go to the bathroom, afraid I would start crying right there in the meeting room. I sat in one of those ammonia-filled stalls and felt the rage, which my anger had now become. Oh, I felt such murderous rage. Some part of me didn't want to let go of that rage, but something else kept prompting me to keep saying, forgive me, and I love you. I kept saying this over and over to the rage. And then I realized that this was not a new feeling, that I had felt the same rage percolate and disguise itself as a slow burn in the background of my consciousness before, whenever my husband would put me down, or whenever and always my lawyer mother had insisted on being right. And oh, she was one whose words could make black look white, confusing the innocent heart of this child.
So she's made a nice statement here. I had felt this rage percolate and disguise itself as a slow burn in the background of my consciousness before. So what is the inner track? What is the track which is playing? That is the track which is actually running us. So the more aware we become of our inner track, this is something that we deal with in a very beautiful way in the Resilience Advantage program, that how do you discern what is your inner track? Because your inner track is always going to manifest. So when Dr. Yu was poking her, what came out? If you poke an orange, you will get orange juice. So when he poked her, what came out? So what the rage which was inside her, that is what started to come out. And now because she's aware of it, now she puts herself into a position to deal with it. If you're not aware of something, then you cannot deal with it. It's very simple. You need to become aware of something to be able to deal with it.
And then I understood. I got it. Aha, this is it. This is some ancient memory, the beam in my eye, the beam I thrust into others' hearts. This is the sword of memory that I carry in my heart and drag into my now and slay others with. Dr. Hewlin, my mother, my husband Bush, Saddam Hussein, whomever I can accuse and slay out there. This is what Dr. Hewlin is talking about, the continual loop of tape that keeps playing over and over again.
So it's the record, it's the broken down record player. It gets stuck in one thing and it keeps rotating, keeps rotating. So you will have that same kind of a reaction with anything that is happening around you, because it's that trigger. That trigger triggers that particular reaction.
I did not leave. I went back into the conference room and experienced a deep calm the rest of the day. I kept silently saying in my head, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. When Dr. Hewlin answered questions after that, I felt only love for him, none of the previous emotions. He hadn't changed at all. Something in me had.
So she shifted her perspective, and the shift in perspective of looking at that situation totally shifted in the way that she was acting and reacting in that particular situation. So she shifted from the left side of the grid into the right side of the grid. She shifted from reacting to responding, and then everything cooled down.
Sometime after I returned to the room, Dr. Hewlin shared a personal experience about his own introduction to Ho'oponopono. He had bailed the course not once but 3 times, each time thinking that the instructor was crazy and each time forfeiting the cost of the workshop. Did he know what I was thinking? Did he know that I had also almost just left because I thought he was crazy? During the next break, I cautiously approached Dr. Hewlin. Very lovingly, he explained that the ancient, oft repeated memory of male dominance had raised its head. He explained that this was a memory common to many and needed great persistence and diligence to heal. It would not be until I returned home that I would begin to understand the depth of healing that had occurred for me at the workshop.
So he's talking about a memory which is ingrained in most of the females of our species, because the female has always technically been dominated by the male. So when a male is poking you, it starts triggering the female. There's one
Throughout,
page left, so we'll complete it today.
throughout the weekend, Dr. Hewlin gave us tools for transformation, tools that totally defy intellectualism. Not expecting results, I dutifully but skeptically held my pencil, said dewdrop, and tapped the 3 words that I had written on a sheet of paper, words that for me represented problems: computer, son, and husband. Again, I wouldn't know the power of these words until I got home. When I got home, my husband and son greeted me. Both grinning, they said, guess what we got while you were out? A new computer? I guessed. We had been having computer problems which defied hours upon hours, no lie, of technical support from in home technicians, to the point that I was seriously wondering if we had a computer nasty, be it genie or ghost. Most importantly, we had been having many family meltdowns in the past few weeks over our fickle computers. I didn't care about computers, I just wanted harmony. I was a little surprised when both spouse and son said yes, they had bought a new computer. They had agreed just the previous night to wait another 6 months to get one with the new 64-bit processor. They then said, guess what kind? I went down the list: Dell, Hewlett Packard, Sony, Gateway, Compaq, and so on. I named every kind of computer you could think of. No, 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 they said to each guess. I give up, I cried. Now my husband of 30 years is a man of very strong ideas. He has an iron will, which when focused and conscious is nothing less than fantastic determination. When he is not so conscious, this determination, however, can feel more like stubbornness and nothing can move him. He had been a staunch PC advocate, and nothing, I mean nothing, would have changed his mind. So when they both shouted at me, Apple, you could have scraped me off the floor. You see, originally I had wanted an apple, but apples were not allowed in our home any more than pork is allowed in a kosher home. This might seem trivial to some, but I have been married for 30 years, and for 30 years my marriage has traversed hills and valleys, the two of us struggling towards a mutual goal of unity and equality. This apparently inconsequential choice of computers represented a laying down of the sword that only those engaged in the battle would recognize. I mean, if you had told me that China freed Tibet, I would not have been more surprised. I remembered mentally lifting my pencil, saying dewdrop, and tapping husband, computer, and son. Could 30 years of conflict be so quickly and effortlessly dissolved? Could saying, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, and I love you transform a lifetime of external conflicts with my authority figures, mother, phone company, and husband? All I know is that it's been 2 weeks since the workshop. I practice daily what Dr. Hewlin taught me as religiously as I can. My son's over a long protracted illness, and my husband and I are dialoguing about things I used to keep bottled up and withheld. Oh, and last night he said, you know, honey, if you'd like, you can get one of these little laptops for yourself.
So, so again, what is he saying over here? Triggers, right? Triggers. He says over here, I dutifully but skeptically, or rather she says, held my pencil and said dewdrop and tapped the three words that I'd written on a sheet of paper, words that for me represented problems. So in the workshop, she was given a trigger that if you say the word dewdrop and tap your pencil on the word which is creating a problem for you, it will sort itself out. And she did it. And because we are very powerful beings, right? We have the power of manifestation, provided we totally sink into it. We operate from that state of zero, and then we have no doubt in our mind. When we have doubts, we stand in our own way, and the triggers don't work. So let me tell you, in the Monroe process, when we are using triggers, they actually work. In fact, we are having the personal development program this weekend. And those of you who have done the personal development program know that you get a list of triggers in that program, and they actually work for you in your life, provided that you actually use them. Right. So again, this para is over. We can stop here. Anyone, anything to say? Any comments? Okay, I'm stopping.